is the Conservative Colonel Podcast with Harrison Dawes, where one man stands against the rising tide of liberalism. This officer in the battle to preserve our nation is the Conservative Colonel.
Nothing ends here. Our hopes and our journeys continue.
And here's Harrison Dawes.
Welcome to the Conservative Colonel Podcast, coming to you live from Wayne County, Mississippi. I'm your host, Harrison Dawes, and I want to thank everybody for joining me today. We had a lot of love on our last two episodes. Of course, episode 15, What is Happening to the United Methodist Church, where I go into just the craziness happening in the United Methodist Church. And, of course, our episode 16, where I was kind of, well, guys, sorry about missing a week. Here's another upload in the same week, which we talked about the BLM riots and the pro-Palestine violence. It's good to be back. We have some news to cover today. Some interesting stuff, some stuff that I'm going to talk about briefly and then go into it. Or maybe save it for another episode. There's something that I was researching, and honestly, I'm going to have to take a step back and research it again because it's just crazy. But first, I want to ask that you please support us on your platform of choice. Our main platform is Spreaker, but we're also on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music and Audible, Cashbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Listen Notes, and Good Pods. And on Thursdays, we of course release on all those platforms the audio version of the show. But on Tuesdays, we release the video format on Rumble and YouTube. You can find a link to all of our platforms on our website, conservativecolonel.com. How do I want to start? Okay, first things first, I was going to talk about the Trump trial. Just some interesting stuff is coming out. But I decided to save that for next week because I will be going on vacation. So I'll have to be recording next week's episode a lot earlier. So I don't know what I'll be discussing at this time. But I'll more likely be recording next week's episode on a Monday or a Tuesday instead of Wednesday or Thursday, which are two of my normal dates. I try to record on Wednesday because it's a whole lot easier for a Thursday release to just go ahead and get in the recording studio and record it the day before. But I usually try to wait as late as I can. Like right now it's 9:30 p.m., which is not late for me, but it is for the rest of my poor family who are having to listen to this. But I don't know when I'm going to record it. I could even record it tomorrow after the episode releases and just see if there's anything else I can talk about. I was also going to cover something else, but I feel like Chris McDaniel's America is going to do a much better job than I could with it. And again, I don't want to cover the same stuff that they cover because the right side is great. Chris McDaniel's America is great. And they're both covering a good bit of news. So I'll try my best, unless it's just big news, like the Palestinian stuff going on or the Trump trial or something that's just, big. I try to avoid it. It's kind of hard because Chris McDaniel's America usually comes out on Fridays. They gave us a treat this week and gave it to us early live, if I'm not mistaken. And I haven't got through listening to it all, but they do talk about just some of the stuff happening at Ole Miss that we'll talk about for a second. But I do want to make a big announcement. So our 25th episode was one that I was really trying to rack my brain around, trying to bring on a good guest for. So for me, it's a big milestone. there was a lot of times I don't know if we would get to 25, and there's a lot of people who didn't think we'd get to 10. So I wanted to do something because this podcast has become such a big part of my life. I love doing it. I look forward to doing it. I think it is right now my contribution to the conservative fight to make sure that America doesn't get lost in this wave of liberalism that is happening right now. And by when I mean wave, I'm not talking about popularity. Gosh, no, they don't have popularity, but the cramming down our throats of podcast, product, entertainment, movies, everything now produced usually has a liberal slant. I'm a big comic book fan, and I'm worried to death at the new X-Men cartoon. I know I'm 25. I shouldn't be watching cartoons, but I do. I'm a huge geek. I haven't watched it yet. But one of my friends told me, hey, I know how you feel about certain things. They added something that I know you're not going to enjoy. And it's just this non-binary crap to one of the characters. They're no longer a man. They're they, them, which makes no sense because you're either a boy or a girl. But, they gave me a heads up, and I honestly don't know if I'm going to watch it now, even though this X-Men cartoon is a continuation of one of my favorite cartoons as a child. I watched it again earlier this year because I enjoy comic books, and especially good cartoons where it's not wholly based on giving kids entertainment, but as you get older you can rewatch and be like, oh, I understand that reference, and you can enjoy a story more because I'm a big story person. I call the TV shows and movies I watch stories like an older person does, simply because I love storytelling. It's why I started a historical documentary company, which is still in the early stages, but it's one of the reasons I do that because I love storytelling. But they gave me a heads up on that, so that's why I do this, and I love doing this. So, kind of getting back to the point, announcing our guest for the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel podcast, which will release perfectly on July 4th. I couldn't have planned it better myself. With July 4th being the signing of the Declaration of Independence, where a lot of our thoughts come from, a lot of our founding fathers started standing up for what they believe in. And that is the day I'm marking that the Conservative Colonel podcast will be here for years to come. And we're going to knock it out of the park with our guest, Ryan S. Walters. Now, if you don't know about him, he's originally from Ellisville, Mississippi. Ryan Walters is an independent historian who, if you don't know, I'm also an independent historian, or I'm trying to be. I'm training, since I don't believe the academic world has anything to offer me when it comes to becoming a historian anymore. That's how bad I feel like historians have gotten, that I don't want to deal with them. I'd rather be independent. And right now I'm in the learning phase where I'm trying to teach myself as much history as possible. And I'm also writing a couple books right now. But Ryan is the author of Grover Cleveland, The Last Jeffersonian President. Now, a lot of you know that I call myself a conservative, or Jeffersonian conservative. And we'll probably get into that on this show, finally explaining to everybody what that is. I think I've done a pretty good job, but Mr. Ryan has produced a couple articles. I think one for the Abbeville Institute, which is a great source for Southern history, by the way. I love it. They're phenomenal. Go check them out. They also have a podcast of their own. But, that book, Grover Cleveland, is a good book. I have it ordered. I have talked to Mr. Ryan about it before in the past on another one of my podcasts. We're not going into that right now, but it's more of a history podcast. But I'm now bringing him back to talk about specifically the Constitution. And we're probably going to throw in some Jeffersonianism at you. But he also wrote, Remember Mississippi, Apollo 1, the tragedy that put us on the moon, and the Jazz Age president defending Warren G. Harding. He has appeared on a lot of shows, and now he will be adding the Conservative Colonel. He has written for a lot of stuff like townhall.com, antiwar.com, Confederate Veteran Magazine, which is also a great read, Chronicles Magazine, and the Foundation for Economic Education, as well, again, as the Appyville Institute. He is in a lot of organizations and spoken at a lot of things too. He's a very accomplished historian, is what I'm trying to tell you. So Mr. Ryan will be coming on the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel podcast to talk about, again, the Constitution. And I'm probably going to poke and prod him about what is a Jeffersonian conservative. You know, you wrote an article for the Abbeville Institute that really inspired me to take that title a couple of years ago. You know, I want to throw down right now, what is that? And, you know, we might talk about a couple of his books. Again, Grover Cleveland would be a good one. And, of course, the Jazz A's President would be a good one. So that's our episode. It'll hopefully be a bit longer than our average episodes to give Mr. Ryan time to really dive deep into his topic. It's just going to be a great show. It's going to hopefully be our biggest show. I'm going to try my best to promote the living crap out of it, simply because this is fantastic. I've been wanting to get on the show for a while, but I didn't want to ask him too soon. I wanted to make sure that, you know, this was something that I knew I could stick with and something I loved doing. And it turns out I love recording the Conservative Colonel podcast. And I feel like this is where I can fight right now for the conservative movement. And I hope y'all can join us. I know I have a very small following, and I'm not ashamed of that. I enjoy the fact that, you know, I'm the underdog. I'm fighting up right now to hopefully become a voice in the conservative movement. I have no ambitions to be the voice of the conservative movement. I think there's too many good people ahead of me for that. One, of course, being Chris McDaniel. But, you know, I want us to be a voice in that movement. And I think this is going to be one of those episodes that can really get us some good momentum. So I hope that y'all join, share this episode out, because, again, I'm hoping that this can pick up some steam. With it only being, you know, technically 2 months away, but only 8 episodes away, because we only do 1 episode a week. But, you know, I'm looking forward to it. Mr. Ryan, again, has been a great guest in the past for me, and I've enjoyed talking to him. I enjoy having him on, and I think it's going to be something special. So make sure you mark it on your calendars, July 4th at 9 a.m., the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel podcast with your host, Harrison Dawes, and our special guest, Ryan S. Walters. It's going to be phenomenal. I'm looking forward to it. But let's get in some news now. So again, I was going to talk about where is it? The Ole Miss stuff. Ole Miss. I talked about it last week, very positively. But now, of course, the liberal media are turning it back on the conservatives, as always, and they're bringing up this ridiculous argument. They're making it about race when it wasn't. It was about Palestine and Israel. Again, it was a pro-Palestinian protest where the conservatives came along and was basically like, hey, stop supporting terrorism. But again, Chris McDaniel's America, I think the most recent episode that came out this week, go back and watch that. Chris and Jack, I forgot your name there for a second. Jack's going to hit me hard for that. I can already see Jack giving me some criticism over the phone, but they did a great job explaining that. And I realized all their talking points I would accidentally copy if I went into this, because they just were so many good points that I didn't want to plagiarize them. It's much better to hear it from the source. It's like the first 10, 20 minutes of the show. Go back to Chris McDaniel's America, watch it. You can find it on our website. Just go to Conservative Colonel Podcast, click on the podcast tabs, and hit Great Conservative Allies. And you'll see the first thing you see is Chris McDaniel's America. Click on that, and it will take you to the Midnight Ride, and you can just hit on whatever platform you want. Or you can scroll down to shows, and guess what? click the arrow, and you'll see Chris McDaniels America. And when you click on that, it takes you over to the Rumble page. Now, I am looking at the Rumble page right now, and I don't think they have it updated yet. So, oops. But you can go to their YouTube, The Midnight Ride, at the top of the screen, click it, and there it is. The most recent episode of the Chris McDaniels America, episode 7, just hit the live tab on YouTube, and you can watch it. I'm a big YouTube person. I like watching stuff on YouTube. That's where I watch Chris McDaniels America personally, but you can also see it on Facebook and Twitter. And on Rumble, it just seems they might have accidentally got behind or I've overlooked it, which is more likely I've overlooked it. I have pretty bad eyes. But, that's why I was going to talk about that, even though I'm an Ole Miss alum. Of course, I was Colonel Reb. I was also the president of the Colonel Reb Foundation from 2018 to 2022. So I kind of wanted to really badly to talk about it. But again, I'm not going to kick a dead horse. Go listen to the much better person at talking than me. Chris McDaniels America, episode 7. Go watch it. But, there is some things I wanted to talk about. One, we have somehow dodged a bullet here in Mississippi. I don't know how, considering that everybody and their mama, it seemed, was behind it. You had the Baptists who were, for some reason, getting involved in political issues that don't make sense. You'll hear nothing on them on abortion, none of them on the super controlling government, what they did during COVID, like in California where they told churches to shut down. You didn't hear them stand up then, but, Medicare, they stand up, which kind of pisses me off, just being honest. If you're going to get involved in politics, you might as well get involved on the politics that go against Christian law. Medicare has nothing, honestly. Again, in my personal opinion, it's the church's job to help people that are sick. The church is asked to protect over the orphans, the widows, the people that need help. And I feel like someone who might need help with medical bills fall into that category. And of course, a church can't take care of everyone. But again, asking all Mississippians to take care of everyone is also pretty stupid as well. But it looks like it's not coming through. The 2024 session wraps up with no Medicare expansion, which is a very good thing in my opinion. I'm shocked that Lieutenant Governor Hosemann allowed that to happen, considering how much of a Democrat he is. But hey, it's a great day. I'm not going to complain about it too much. We dodged a major bullet. But then again, the sad thing is I know it's coming because everybody was giving conservatives crap, or real conservatives crap. I remember seeing people, Governor Reeves being just dragged through the dirt by liberal media here in Mississippi. And they're just like targeting him at all times. And look, I'm not the biggest Governor Reeves fan. I think he is a very rhino-ish personality. I'm not going to say he's a full-fledged rhino yet. He's weird. He picks and chooses when he wants to be a rhino, and he doesn't really stand up to opposition well, which was why I'm shocked that he was like, no to Medicare. And I'm like, wow, I didn't honestly see that coming from you. I'm pretty happy right now. But it looks like our government couldn't come to an agreement this time. But sadly, I know during the next 4 years, it's going to get passed. And Mississippi has no one to blame but ourselves. Mississippians, you voted Lieutenant Governor Hosemann in office again. We all knew he was a liberal. But, oh no, Chris McDaniel told us his real voting record. That's mudslinging. No, what Hosemann was doing was mudslinging. He made up lies and really threw mud at Chris, trying his best to make sure that he didn't lose his job. And just like anybody, Mississippi is supposed to be the most conservative state in the Federation, in the country. And here he is. Here's Hoseman, the most powerful seat or position, let me phrase it, in the most powerful position in the Mississippi government. And he's not even a rhino. He's just a liberal. You know, a rhino is probably more Governor Reed's. I know I said he's not exactly one, but he fits the mold better than Delbert. Delbert's just a Democrat. He just has an R by his name. So it was all fault. I'll get it out. Mississippi's purple now. And of course, also, I honestly think we secretly lost control over the Senate and the House. I think we have a lot more rhinos, or basically Democrats that just put an R by their name in office right now, than we do actually real conservatives in the state of Mississippi. Our real conservative policies would have been enacted. You know, they give us a bone here and there, hoping that makes us happy and we forget about all the other crap they do. But here I am. I'm saying I'm not going to forget all the crap y'all did this session. I know I'm going to be hitting my Senator DeBar hard in the upcoming months. I'm probably going to do a whole episode on him at some point because I'm looking forward to it. Now, my representative is a lot better. He is a conservative and a friend. You know, I honestly, with everything going on, I haven't looked at either of their records, but, you know, I'm about to start really digging into it. I know DeBar is going to upset me because I just remember seeing stuff that he's voted on, and I'm like, but I can't wait to dig into DeBar. He's going to get a whole episode dedicated to him, like I did with what's our senator's name? I'm gonna forget about it now. What's his name? Roger Wicker. That's how much I dislike Roger Wicker. I forgot his name, but you know. It is what it is. We dodged, as I said, a bullet. It's not happening this year, but it could happen next year. I don't know if they'll try year 3 or 4, simply because elections are going to come up. It's either the first year or the second year they try to really pass a lot of liberal agenda. So we got through this year not too bad, but I don't know how we're going to fare next year. With this failing, I see Delbert Hoseman giving it his all to make sure that Medicare is the major issue of next legislative session, the 2025 legislative session. Which I'm not saying it wasn't a big issue this year. Heck, I've covered it on at least 3 or 4 episodes from January till now, and I'm happy to finally put a nail in it for the time being. Anyway. But I know it's going to be brought up. I doubt Hoseman doesn't bring it up. I feel like, if anything, knowing Hoseman, he's going to try to campaign for it a bit, go to places, telling how we've made it conservative, which the government getting involved in something is the most unconservative thing out there. So I don't know how he's going to persuade people, but sadly, people aren't as intelligent as I wish they would be. Some people are so skeptical of politicians that they won't even enjoy a good politician, if that makes sense, or a statesman. I'm going to say statesman because that's a politician's not a statesman. A statesman's what a politician should be. They're skeptical of statesmen, and then we have people that are just so loyal to the Republican Party that it seems they don't want to talk about it. And I'm trying to say, people, wake up. This wouldn't have even been brought up in Mississippi if we didn't have liberals posing as Republicans. We are infested in the Republican Party with states like Mississippi who are just so conservative, or they think they're so conservative that they won't vote anything other than a Republican. So Democrats switch, I just hope no one notices because the Republican Party is going to call them out because that means we get more seats, more wins. Doesn't mean jack crap if we're not passing conservative values. But, here we are. Third year in a row, we don't have our right to petition the government. It's going on 3 or 4 now, actually. Yeah, 2020, I think. So, yeah, 4 years was the last time we were able to participate in that constitutional right here in the state of Mississippi. But, oh, no, no, no. Don't vote us out. We will be your friend at the Capitol Hill. We'll be your leadership at the Capitol Hill here in Jackson. All lies. I don't see Roger Wicker, but every 4 to 5 years, he might make a sporadic appearance here in Mississippi, which in my mind, I go by the Declaration of Independence that we are all free and independent states. We're supposed to be social experiments. We're supposed to be our own government, and the federal government is supposed to step in as little as possible, really only protect us from war, our borders, and represent us on the national stage, which I honestly think we should be like Chris said it the other week, like Switzerland. We should be a very neutral country on issues, but we're also now the police force for the world. But yeah, senators are U.S. senators are basically supposed to be ambassadors. They are supposed to go up there, fight for Mississippi values, fight for conservative values, and come back home. But you notice none of them come back home. Not a lot, anyway. They might come home to visit their grandchildren, but that's about it. They stay in Washington. It's funny, don't you think? They don't ever come back to Mississippi publicly to say hi to their people, their people they're representing. Maybe ask them what they think about policies. No. They come back, though, to ask for your vote. It's why I'm so sick of the state level, and I harp on it, because we can't fix the federal level until we fix the state level and our local levels. I mean, I know, for example, like I love Waynesboro to death, my hometown, Waynesboro, Mississippi, where we're coming live from. But we just, and I mean, I have friends and family that are in our local government, but and I don't want to criticize them a lot because of that, but also at the same time, it's like, guys, they're breaking ground on a new Taco Bell here in Waynesboro, and it's like, we need jobs, not more fast food. Anything other than more fast food here in Waynesboro, please. And I'm not saying my local government's corrupt, but there's obviously a bit of a disconnect with Waynesboro people and our government here. And that happens when you spend a bit too much time in office, or just, when you get kind of caught up in all of it. Again, I'm not going to attack my hometown government just yet. I haven't really even gotten involved in my hometown government. I'm getting there. I'm starting to read more, understand more. I'm about to start going to meetings because it's very important to stay involved in your local and state government. But, it's crazy. But that's what we need to do. We need to get involved in our state and local governments. Now, we are about to take a quick commercial break. And when we get back, we'll be talking about the Boy Scouts and the craziness that happened with them. And that's going to be how we kind of round out tonight's show. But we will be right back after these commercial messages. Welcome back to the Conservative Colonel podcast. I just got off the phone with one of my friends during that commercial break. And he brought up something pretty interesting to me about the Colonel Reb Foundation, of course, the organization I was president of when I was at Ole Miss fighting for conservatism and tradition. And I mean, he made a good point that I might bring up at a later episode. I don't want to reveal it just yet, but I do like it. But let's go into the crazy news story of the week. The Boy Scouts are changing their name. The Boy Scouts were founded 114 years ago, and it was supposed to help train young boys to teach them patriotism, courage, self-reliance, and kindred values. And this is coming from Teddy Roosevelt. And I'm from the South. I'm from Mississippi, so we grow up in the woods. We don't necessarily I didn't join the Boy Scouts, but I was taught in the woods by my father, who taught me things I need to know, things I need to watch out for, things I should know as a redneck, if you will, or a man. Especially here in the South, where we spend a lot of our time in the woods. I enjoy the walks on my farmland, and on my farmland, there's a good bit of wood and timber. So I crawl through and swipe through webs, and walk all around to simply clear my mind, and I enjoy it. But there's some boys that maybe aren't that lucky. So joining the Boy Scouts is a way to learn not only how to be a man, but to enjoy the wilderness. That is something I think is a great mission. They do teach a lot of self-reliance. Now, again, I'm not. In my lifetime, I haven't been the biggest fan of them, but this is crazy. It's, of course, an all-male group, and the Girl Scouts are a dead gum thing, but now they're changing their name. Let's see here. They announced its intention to change their name from Boy Scouts of America to just Scouting America. And of course, this is because for some reason, the Boy Scouts, now again, there's a Girl Scouts, allowed in girls. Okay. An organization whose purpose is to teach boys how to be good men of society, self-reliant, and wilderness men to enjoy nature, is now bringing in girls when girls have that exact same organization. They're Girl Scouts. I have not researched the Girl Scouts, but I'm guessing it's very similar to teach a girl how to be a woman, self-reliance, and of course about nature, and among other things, of course, but that's the core purpose. But the Boy Scouts people complained about joining the Girl Scouts a couple years ago, so they started letting girls in. Stupidest thing ever. It's supposed to be an all-male organization, and I'm in a historical organization that is an all-male organization. I'm in the process of joining the Sons of the American Revolution. There is a Daughters of the American Revolution. There's only two genders. Two. Someone's going to clip that, and that's going to come back to haunt me in a couple years. But there are men, boys, or women, girls. It's science. And so, yeah, they're changing the name Scouting America. And let's talk about why. To be more inclusive. There's already a female version of this organization. If you want to start another organization that allows boys and girls, fine, have at it. But Boy Scouts, it's in the name. You should be a male if you're going to join the Boy Scouts. But no. It's now Scouting America. And this is another example of the wave of liberalism I was talking about earlier was not necessarily popular among people, but it's happening. They have ingrained that viewpoint into certain key members of society. The leadership of the Boy Scouts has been twisted and turned to represent the positiveness of masculinity, is now afraid to be masculine at all. To train boys to become men, productive members of society, is now gone. Why? Why? Much like our colleges, much like Hollywood, much like our leadership on the government scale, it has all been corrupted by this wave of liberalism, which liberalism is smart on one thing: how they get involved and get in contact with society. They take over teaching in high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools, and local government to teach the next generation their lies. They get in Hollywood so they can teach propaganda. And when you are just out of the household for the first time, trying to figure out who you are in the world, your most influential years of your life, they're professors, student organization leaders. They're in the news. So every time you hear about something, it's from a liberal viewpoint. Heck, that's the whole reason I started this show. They have ingrained themselves in these once great organizations. And until we start to wake up, conservatives, and fight back, I mean, really fight back, teach your kids, get involved somewhere, we might as well kiss everything goodbye. Because honestly, it's of my opinion that the current generation can be reached, but we should already be focusing on the next. I honestly do believe that. We should be focusing, okay, well, we need to start getting in schools again. We have to start teaching conservative values, because if not, they're going to just get taught liberal values. And first off, school, especially college, is supposed to be a place of thought, not just one viewpoint, but a place of multiple viewpoints where you can have theological discussions, big brain discussions, we're going to call them, where someone who is a conservative, someone who's a liberal can discuss things in a nice environment. Or say, I like Star Wars, but I do like Star Trek, but say I don't. I don't like Star Trek. And these two viewpoints collide. Well, let's have a discussion. Why is this better than the other? See? That's what college is supposed to be. And honestly, when people hear liberalism, it sounds good when you're in college, but when you get to working, you start thinking about all the people that might have told you about conservatism in college, and you're like, oh, crap, that makes good sense. Why would I want my government to have all my money? But here we are. So the downfall of another great American institute, Scouting America. Oh, crap. Now, of course, this hasn't went through yet. I know it's reached a good bit of backlash, but I doubt that changes anything. They got a good bit of backlash when they started letting in all these transgender and women and crap. Again, there's a whole organization dedicated for the woman, for girls. If you want your girl to grow up in, that environment, go ahead. You have people there. But I mean, that's probably liberals all get out. I mean, I know the Boy Scouts are making news right now simply because they just like wear a liberalism as a badge, as a patch. Isn't that funny? And it just continues and continues to get worse. It's annoying. Honestly, it feels like every day something from my childhood is getting ruined. I talked about this earlier with the X-Men cartoon. It seems like Hollywood likes ruining my past. They like bringing shows back that are popular and ruining them instead of making new characters, and you can make them purple for all I care. Um, but no, Hollywood also has a thing against redheads. Have you noticed that? I noticed that the other day, and it made me laugh. Different topic completely, but I do want to talk about that on maybe an episode, or maybe heck right now, that Hollywood hates redheads. Go look at a lot of red-headed characters the past couple years, and they're not redheads anymore. They make them usually African American, which I've found weird. They don't change usually a lot of other characters, but if it's a redhead, they're African American now, which I kind of feel bad. Make a new great African American character. It's not that hard. Write a character good, introduce them, and make them a representation of that race. It's not that hard. Keep that poor redheaded character, make them a good representation for people who have red hair. It's not that hard. People decide to make it complicated character development. It's not. It's so stupid. It's very stupid. And yeah, Hollywood has always been liberal as all crap, but I don't know about you, but it feels like they never pushed their agendas that hard. There were always a couple that maybe pushed it a bit more than others, but you knew what you were getting into. Heck, the X-Men were made originally to talk about, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the differences between the civil rights movement. It was talking about how these people are treated differently. They're human, but just because they're different, they're treated differently, which is, of course, which was going on with the civil rights movement. Now, I could be mistaken. It could have been like racism with the Jewish community because Stanley was Jewish. But I think I remember that on a documentary. But, don't take my word for it. Research it. We have great research at our fingertips. But it seems like everything that they can touch, the liberalism, a liberal community want to corrupt it simply to push their agenda to the next generation. Because say I am a father right now and a new Indiana Jones movie comes out. I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, by the way. Favorite movie character, favorite franchise of all time. I like all of them, all 5. Yes, I do. Piss off. I don't care if you don't like 4 and 5. They're still good movies and good storytelling for Indy. But something that came out when I was a kid was, The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones, and say they want to continuate that or reboot it because it was canceled before that story was complete. So we never got to see young Indiana Jones turn into the character we all love. So say they want to do a reimagining of that, like Star Wars, The Clone Wars. And I'm like, okay, buddy. I take my son to it because, well, he was a great character. He got me involved in history. History is my passion. I want to introduce you to something that changed my life. I take him to go watch the new young Indiana Jones. And Indiana Jones now is a woman. Or he's the same, but certain characters are just completely different than what they are in the movies. The tone has changed. It's telling Indy, who is in the 1910s, that transgenderism is okay, and it's okay to feel like you are a man trapped in a woman's body. I'm gonna take my poor kid out there and walk him out, but that's what they do now. It's all about propaganda, which is sad because a lot of us just like entertainment. We can get too caught up in it too much, yes, and I have been a great example of that from time to time. There's a lot of times I will fall back behind at work because I enjoy storytelling, and my friends will send me, "Oh, here's a cool movie. Here's a cool YouTube video." that's a documentary about someone, or here's a story about a alien that flies down to Earth and has superpowers. I enjoy storytelling, so I am awful about it myself, but when it starts crossing that line to propaganda, it's time for us to stand up and say, all right, I'm sick of this. Get back to telling stories or get out. Or better yet, let's let us have a crack at it. Again, I think the conservative movement has been very voiceless, very stagnant. Trump came along and gave it a shot in the arm, but I know there's a lot of very, very pro-Trump people, and I am too. I'm going to vote for him. But let's be honest, Trump. How old is Trump? Trump is 77 years old. He was born 4 years before my grandfather. There is a time where the next generation needs to take over, and it's past that time. Trump is a great shot in the arm for the conservative movement. He's a bit of a nationalist, which is kind of not what a conservative is, but he's more conservative than most. But again, it's time for us to get going again. He's a shot in the arm, but we don't capitalize on it. Why? Sadly, I think it's just because it's a shot in the arm. People just are like, okay, it's awesome to be a conservative again. People are standing up. People are fighting back. But after Trump got out of office, it was all of a sudden like, brr. Like, again, here's how I feel about it. Trump got elected, and it was like this movement, and it was like the shot in the arm, as I've been talking about, the conservative movement needed. And we started fighting, or we thought we were. But fast forward 8 years later, since 2020, or since his election, let's use Mississippi example. Delbert Hosemann is still a Democrat that's still in office. Mississippi's purple, and we just reelected Roger Wicker, along with our whole other state that has a lot of liberals in it. There wasn't a massive wave of conservatism. There was a small wave that made us feel good, that made us feel like we were doing something. But just having the presidentship is not going to change this country. And again, I'm voting for him. I hope he wins, because my wallet personally cannot take another year of Biden. Matter of fact, if Trump gets elected and I get more money in my wallet, it will be great for the Conservative Colonel podcast, because I can run ads. I can upgrade my software equipment on Spreaker. I can do so much more. But unless the conservative mind, because a party, I'll get off on a tangent, but unless conservatives actually step up and lead a movement and find our voice for that movement. Again, I personally think it's Chris McDaniel. I plug his show a lot because I think he is the person to show us the way to true conservative values. And I think he can inspire that next person that runs that says, okay, let's do it. Let's start a movement in the local, state, and then federal politics. That's how we do it. But again, Trump, if he gets reelected again, is going to be another good shot in the arm. But how we spend these next 4 years from 2024 to 2028 will be critical, because we'll have another election here in Mississippi. Term limits will be ending. What are we going to do about it, people? Because I know a lot of other states will be having elections. What are we going to really do about it that makes lasting change, that makes conservative values relevant again? Because there is no real conservative leadership on the national level. Really, not any on the state level here in Mississippi. Anyway, I'm not. I can't speak for all the other states, but I've noticed it as a problem. It's like conservatives don't know what they're doing. All our leaders are rhinos that are pissed, 90 years old, and they're sitting there drooling on TV, and all people my age are sitting there like, that's my leadership? That is who represents my mindset? Heck, if I knew they weren't idiots, I would be on the liberal side right now because of how bad the Republican Party portrays conservative mindset. I would be a Democrat if I didn't know they were idiots. If I didn't know socialism didn't work, if I didn't know the things I knew in here, I guarantee you I would have switched because the Republican Party is that bad. And there needs to be a new wave of conservatism. Again, I dislike the Republican Party so much. I describe myself in a whole different way. I am a Jeffersonian conservative. I am what conservatism is supposed to be. Now, not everybody uses that description. Some just say conservative, but I'm going to bring it all the way back to the man who started that way of thinking in America, Thomas Jefferson. And I'm going to say I'm a Jeffersonian conservative simply because that's how pissed I am at the Republican Party. That's how I have to identify because being a Republican means nothing. Absolutely nothing because they have just let the Republican Party tank itself. Honestly, tank themselves because they don't stand up for their values. They just allow anybody to walk in. Well, we're getting more seats in Congress. We have a president. We have this. We have that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's time to stand up, conservatives. I hope this fired you up. I hope you share this out and try to fire up some more people because they've already taken Boy Scouts. They've already taken a lot of other things. When are we going to stand up and say enough is enough? It is time for us to get a new wave of conservatism. No blue wave, no red wave. Conservative values versus liberal values. If you take them apart, take the politicians out of it and look at the values, conservatism is way better. Again, you can go listen to Chris McDaniel's America and you can see the stuff he has talked about, and he has done a great job of sowing conservative thinking. But it's time. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure, again, you follow us on our many, many great platforms and leave us a 5-star review, a comment, subscribe, like it. But, of course, our main platform, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music and Audible, Cashbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Pod Chaser, Listen Notes, and Good Pods. And, of course, our video format releases on Tuesdays on Rumble and YouTube. And, of course, if you think I went too fast for all that and you couldn't keep up, go to conservativekernel.com. Click on podcasts and hit all podcast platforms to see everywhere you can find the Conservative Kernel podcast. Make sure you make plans now to tune in for our 25th episode, July 4th, with Ryan S. Walters to talk about the Constitution and hopefully a bit more. I've been your host. God bless America and God bless Mississippi.